A purchase of a home is probably one of the biggest purchases that you'll make. You got over $25,000 in down payment assistance. Title attorney said at settlement, this is the way you buy a house. So the $1 million question is, how much did you bring to settlement the day of closing?
I think it was like 30.
Welcome to the Get the Keys podcast. My name is Jocaro Dodd. I'm your host and Maryland realtor. And today I have another special guest with me to share or to talk about her home ownership journey, Dr. Nicole Telfer. Thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right. So let's jump right in. What was the motivation for you to fire your landlord and become a homeowner?
Yeah, I just didn't want to pay rent anymore. And I think what triggered that was the rent increasing and increasing by a ridiculous amount.
Okay.
So I decided it's not like I ended my lease and then went right into buying a house. I had to do something that was a little bit uncomfortable but necessary. So I ended my lease and then I went to go live with my aunt. And that was helpful because I was able to save money and to take my time looking at homes. I didn't have to rush because I wasn't unhoused. And yeah, it was mainly just the rent increase and then realizing that, my money was it was going down the drain for me, but it was benefiting my landlord, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. And was it intentional for you to live with your aunt to save up that money? Or what went into that decision?
It was intentional. I didn't want to, I knew once I ended that lease that I wanted to look for a home and purchase a property. I did live with my aunt when I first moved to Maryland, but it wasn't my intentions to move back, post PhD.
Right.
So, yeah, it was just a year, but it was helpful in that I didn't have much to worry about, just looking for homes and coming back to her place. So she
Okay.
likes having me there, so
Okay. Well, that's a positive. That's a positive.
yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into what actually made it happen. Because your story really breaks down the myth that you need a ton of money to purchase a home. And usually I'm the one introducing my clients to different grants and first-time homebuyer programs. But from the get-go, you came to my homebuyer workshop and you already knew about the Live Baltimore program and a whole lot of other programs that were available to you.
Mhm.
And you were determined not to spend you were determined not to spend a dime more than you had to
Mhm.
get your home. So how did you first hear about the Live Baltimore program?
Yeah, so I first heard about it from a friend of mine. And it's funny because she's also a little bit frugal. So, she purchased her home during COVID and she told me about the grants that she got. And so, it was then up to on me to do extra research on grants that I could get. So, I wasn't aware of grants at all when it came to buying homes. So it
Hmm.
was my friend that introduced me to that.
Okay, cool. And there are about 23 programs that are part of the Live Baltimore, um, I guess, group of programs that they offer. Do you remember which combination of the programs that you use?
Yeah. The thing I like about Baltimore City is that you can stack programs too. And so when I went to the trolley tour, um, there were lots of different webinars. So they showed a list of incentives and grants that someone can get if they qualify. So the ones that I qualified for and received were the trolley tour. So that one is a little interesting because you would see thousands of people there to learn more about the grants and stuff, but not everyone will get it's a lottery. And their stipulation is that you have to be under contract within 12 days. And not everyone is going to go under contract within 12 days, but I was determined to go under contract within those 12 days so I can get that incentive. So that was
Yeah, and
5,000.
you did the trolley tour twice, right?
I did it twice. Yeah. So the
Yeah,
first time it was really to get information. And then the second time was because I knew more about it and I knew what I needed to do to get it. Um, I just had to be a little more strategic.
right.
um, yeah, so that one was 5,000 and then I qualified for Live Near Your Work, and that was because my institution where I work at, they give home buying incentives. So Notre Dame gave 2,500 and then Baltimore City matches that, so that was another 5,000. And
Hmm.
then I received the first time homebuyer incentive program. That was 12,100.
Yep.
And I think that's based on income, and
Yeah,
household
it is.
size. Yeah. And then, and then I also wanted to go with a lender that had in-house grants. And so I went with Chase and they gave me 7,500.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Did you mention the buy into Baltimore? Because I think you also got 5,000 from them. But all in all, you got over $25,000 to put
Hmm.
toward your closing and down payment costs. Um,
Yep.
and one thing you did say that I do appreciate about you, you came to my home buyer workshop where I had a lender there presenting, and as well as a title attorney. Um, and one thing you mentioned is that you did your research, and you were looking for a lender that had in-house grants. And you
Yeah.
didn't just stick with the person that I said, hey, I have the relationship with this person. She's great.
Mhm.
And, I've worked with her on many deals before. You chose the one that you were most
Yeah.
comfortable with. And I think that's a key, for, the listeners out there. Like, you don't have to choose who your lender or the team
Mhm.
that your lender, puts forth. Do your
Mhm.
research, figure
Yeah.
out who you're comfortable with, um, and which lender or even agent that works for you, and then
Yeah.
go with that person.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for doing that, doing your own research and then going with who made you feel comfortable and who had the best, option for you.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you.
Um, and after all of that,
$39
yeah,
and some change.
yeah.
Yeah.
So do you know
Yeah.
how much your friend brought to settlement?
I can't remember. Actually, I don't know. I never asked her how much
Okay.
she settlement, but probably not. Actually, I think she told me she didn't put anything down. That was during COVID, so
Okay.
everything was then. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. $39 is amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so what was the process like applying for the Live Baltimore tour? You did, or the Live Baltimore program. You did mention the trolley tour.
Mhm.
And I know there's like some counseling that you have to go through. Can you talk a little bit about that in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, applying for grants through Baltimore City and even the state of Maryland requires patience because it is a process. They just don't give you the money like that. And it's so
Right.
funny because I'm on the phone with my friend and he was like, send me the link to apply for grants. And I was like, it doesn't work like that at all. You can't apply for the grants on your own. The lender has to do it for you. Um,
Hmm.
but before all of that, you have to do a counseling session with a qualified agency in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Well, I did my counseling session with NHS. I forgot what that stands for. But it's NHS Baltimore, and it started with 2 4-hour trainings or workshops that I had to sit in for the entire time to
Hmm.
be qualified to do my one-on-one counseling. And then after I
Hmm.
did my one-on-one counseling, where she just helped me understand budgeting, what I would qualify for as far as grants, and how much my mortgage should be based on my income and additional assets and how much I spend a month. Um, After all of that, then I received my certificate, and then that certificate then goes to the lender because the lender has to, so the agency um, creates an application with my name on it and then sends it to my lender. So I don't do
Right.
anything as applying for grants besides constantly letting my lender know, like, hey, let's stay on top of this. And then whatever my lender might need from me as far as pay stubs and bank statements and things like that, I just made sure to send it to him. Um,
Mhm.
but it was just a matter of doing what I had to do as far as doing the agency counseling and getting my certificate, and then my lender was the one who applied for those grants for me.
So some people hear about these programs and think it sounds too good to be true. Did you ever have that thought? And what would you say to other people that, that have that thought?
So the first time I went to the trolley tour, and they showed a person, like they gave an example of a person. She was real. It wasn't that it was fake.
Hmm.
They just gave her a fake name. And that felt too good to be true because I think she had gotten like 35,000 or something like that. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. But after, I think hearing from my friend that she received over 25,000, I knew it was possible. And so the second trolley tour, I was there making sure that I knew that I could get, or getting information on, all of the grants that I could possibly get. Um, so for anyone who feels like it is too good to be true, um, it's not. It is very much true. It's very much true and it's very much possible. Again, it just requires patience. And it requires patience from your team, even if your team doesn't really know and isn't familiar with the grants, as long as they're patient to go through that process. Cause at the end of the day, everybody wants to close sooner than later. And the one thing they did not tell me was that with grants, it takes a little longer to close because you have to get the check directly from the city. So it
Yeah,
took
Baltimore City.
yeah. So it took some time. And some people were a bit impatient, but I knew
Yeah.
that I needed the money. At one point, I almost said no to one grant because I was becoming frustrated.
Yeah,
But
that was a big one. That was a $12,000 one.
yeah, that was the
I was just
biggest
like,
one.
nah, girl, we already got this far. We're not,
Yeah, you're already too far
we're
in.
not giving up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, now that is key. And kudos to to the listing agent on the other side. She was very patient.
yeah.
She understood the program. This was my first time going through it.
Mhm.
So I was, kind of learning as we went. But she was very patient, with us. And she actually wanted it for you. So
Mhm.
she was willing to talk to her seller and say, hey, this is what it is. And, she really went to bat for you as well. So
I
kudos to the
had a good
listing
team.
agent.
I had a good team, and I would consider
Yeah.
her part of the team. It was a good team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Buying a home isn't just about qualifying for a loan. It's about shifting your mindset and your habits. Were there any financial habits or changes or sacrifices that you made to get yourself ready for home ownership?
I think the biggest sacrifice I had to make was giving up my apartment, like my space of solitude,
Mm. Hmm.
to live with my aunt and her dog. And
Yeah.
then, just family members who would come from time to time. Um, yeah, I would say that was the biggest sacrifice. I don't think I've ever struggled with, not stewarding my money correctly. I've always been big on saving and having multiple streams of income and being intentional about investment. So I still did things that were satisfying to me, like traveling, um,
Hmm.
going to the spas and getting my massages. Um, so I think, yeah, I would say that was the biggest sacrifice for me was relocating to my aunt to
Okay. To
save
save some money.
money as well. Mhm.
Yeah, no. Now that's huge, and again, kudos to you because I know there are people out there that will value their comfort more than a little bit of discomfort
Mhm.
for you know for something good.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so kudos to you for that. And why was it important for you to preserve your cash going into home ownership rather than, I guess, choosing the comfortable route, which would be, hey, I'm going to continue to live on my own and just use my cash to, um, purchase the home.
Yeah, I wasn't at that time, I wasn't quite sure how much I would get in grants, so it was important that I would save a little bit more. And it wasn't only about preserving cash for me, it was also about taking my time. And so I knew that if I stayed in my apartment, it's a 1-year lease, and that would restrict me to a 1-year limit of looking for homes. And I don't do well under pressure,
Mhm.
as far as a strict and stringent timeline. And so being with my aunt gave me the liberty to take my time. It
Yeah,
also, and taking my time allowed me to, find you as my real estate agent instead of going with who I had initially. And then even after I closed, I didn't even move in right away because I didn't have to. I must have moved in week after once I got all my things inside. So, um, yeah, that was also important to me, just having the liberty to take my time through this process and do what's best for me.
awesome. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. And you did bring it up. Um, you did start out with another agent, even though we had spoken about, you purchasing a home before. Or actually, I'm not sure who you met first. I think it was me, but I might be wrong. So, talk about what we did sit down for a buyer consultation, and you were very upfront with me. You were just saying, "Hey, I met another agent. We went and looked at a couple of homes,
Mhm.
um, and then you told me, hey, I think I'm gonna go with her." And I was just like, "All right, that's cool." And then I got a text from you, and you were just like, "Hey, I want to start looking at homes with you." And I was just like, "All right, that's what's up." But what happened? What happened there, and what made you think that I was the best person to represent you in the purchase of your home?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of things happen. I think I appreciated you more because you were real and upfront. And I think that's what I needed. I think slowly but surely I started to see more of who the previous real estate agent was. When I met her, she was actually at the trolley tour and she told me that she was well versed with the grants. And so that was a priority for me. Um, and that's what made me want to go with her. And then she was from Baltimore, born and raised. So I'm like, okay, she knows, the ins and out of Baltimore. But as time went on and I realized that we were going to interesting and concerning places in Baltimore, I was like, "You're from here, right?" Um, so that was, concerning to me. Feeling like I was being rushed was a concern, for me as well. And then there was just not enough conversations about the grants. That was also a concern to me. And then showing me places that would be above my means was also a concern to me. So, I get it, everyone has to and needs to get paid. But at the end of the day, I would also be left with the responsibility of a home. And so, yeah, I told her I was not interested in working with her any further. Um, and then I reached out to you.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah. And so I reached out
I'm
to you
glad.
because Again, I appreciated how upfront you were with things, even when we were meeting for our session. Um, just letting me know things up front, and you were also very patient. So, and then I also knew you, so it felt more comfortable in that. And that I had a friendship with you. Um, so it just felt safe to know that you wouldn't do anything that would cause harm as far as the home buying process. So
Yeah, absolutely not.
yeah.
Absolutely not. Now, one thing about me, I desire to build a referral based business, and I can't do my friends and family dirty and expect to get referrals from them. So
Yeah.
plus, it's just not it's just not in my nature to be that way.
Yeah.
I value um, my people, my friends, and I
Mhm.
want to do right by them. So,
Yeah.
and it's a purchase of a home is probably one of the biggest purchases that you'll make. And,
Yeah.
who you select to do that or guide you through that process is a big deal. And I don't take
Mhm.
that lightly. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
definitely want to make sure that, all of my clients are, treated well and well taken care of and, that I'm honest with them. I want to talk about mindset. Did you have examples of homeownership growing up around, or did you have examples of homeowners around you growing up? Or do you feel like you're setting a new example for you and your family?
I had examples, but it's not like we talked about home ownership. So my dad owned a home, and he still owns the home that he lives in Brooklyn, New York. It's still
Mhm.
in his name. Um, so I think that if anything, that's a great example of what it means to not give up your property and see how the value increases over time.
Yeah.
Um, New York is expensive, and I'm not saying it's terrible, but it's not anything that's worth what it is right now, which is around 1 point something million. But I
Oh,
guess it's
wow.
because yeah, and but I think it's because it's in New York and things like that. So my dad, yeah. And I think my dad was also a good example of what it means to invest and what investing looks like. Um, and what it looks like to build generational wealth.
Mhm.
Um, hmm, yeah, I would say it was mainly him in my family. And then I had church folks who are my godparents that they also owned in New York as well. And
Mhm.
I spent time with them for a bit. So it wasn't a lot of people in my life that um owned homes. And again, there weren't much conversations of what it meant to be a homeowner and the process of that as well. So yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So having that example definitely, or it seems as if it, shaped your desire to be a homeowner as an adult.
It was helpful to have one of my parents who were homeowners because when I told my dad that I was purchasing a home, he was able to help me with parts of it as far as questions to ask and what to look for and things like that. So, yeah,
Yeah. Awesome. Now, I love
yeah.
asking this question because for many of us in the Black community, home ownership hasn't always been modeled or even discussed, or even if it's been modeled, it hasn't always been discussed.
Mhm.
And this is just part of the reason I started the podcast to show that it's both possible and the power behind or the impact when you own real estate over time, like you were saying your dad's property. I don't know what he paid for it when he bought it, but it's worth over $1 million now. So
Yeah. I
that's the
think
power
he
of real
told me it
estate if
was
you hold
about,
it long term.
yeah, sorry. I think he told me it was about 300 that he paid, 300K.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, and it's probably I don't know when he bought it, but if it's paid off, then he's sitting pretty right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, that's the power of real estate when you hold it long term.
Mhm.
All right. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the people who were part of your journey and your support system. You mentioned your dad, um, that who gave you some advice. So I guess you kind of answered this question here. But as a single Black woman, um, in addition to your dad, what kind of support system did you have through this process, emotionally, financially, or otherwise?
Yeah, I would say that my aunt who I lived with was also instrumental in me looking at homes, my aunt and uncle. They did come with us a few times to look at some homes, and it was helpful because they were also homeowners, even though that came with a little bit of, it was a little bit of frustration here and there with my uncle because he is in construction. And then you being a real estate agent with an engineering background, it just seemed like two strong-headed people. um, but I would say they were part of it as well. Um, people who friends who owned homes a little before me. So during COVID, I had two friends who purchased homes. And so they were helpful in just letting me know about things as little as who I can hire to mow my lawn,
Mhm.
uh, things like pest control, just numbers and contact information of people. Social media helped a lot, just being part of groups. I was in a Facebook group called First Time Homebuyers, and they had lots of useful information, so that was helpful too.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I financially, I don't know if I would say, I mean, I had my parents, as far as my home, I didn't have to pay much to furnish it. My mom had lots of furniture for me to pick up from her. That was new. Um, but luckily, because I received so much in grants, it didn't feel like it costed me a lot to furnish my home for remaining things that I
Right.
had to get. Well,
Right. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, it really takes, a team, between your lender, your agent, and then your personal support system. Everyone plays a role in getting you to the finish line. And you did mention, I guess you received a lot of feedback from your aunt, your uncle, from me, and then your own instincts. And I remember one home in particular that I really love for you. But your uncle, being a contractor, spotted some red flags, and he wasn't wrong. But tell me what that was like managing all the opinions while staying true to what you wanted.
yeah, that was a lot that day. I remember being in the basement of that house and y'all were going back and forth. And my aunt slowly but surely went upstairs and I tried to follow her and I barely made it to upstairs and you called me down. And I was like, yes. And he was like, you need to be part of this conversation. And I just didn't know how to contribute to it because there was just language that was being used that I wasn't even familiar with. To be quite honest, I didn't even know what an HVAC what it meant or what it stood
Right.
for when I was looking at the home at that time. Now I know as a homeowner, but
Right.
um, it was a little challenging because again, it was conversations that y'all were having that I just didn't know what the issue was to be specific. Um, but it was helpful to hear because um, it made me realize that it's not just how the home looks as far as like the walls and the island
Right.
table and other things. The deep infrastructure of it matters the most, like the foundation. And if the foundation is not good, then I'd be putting in a lot of money to fix things here and there. So
Yeah.
um, I think that helped a lot. Yeah.
And how did you finally know the house that you chose was the one?
Yeah. I just remember walking in here with you and I was like, this feels like home. I just remember saying that. I remember, coming on the block many times and just feeling a sense of community. The neighbors are really kind. They're all relatively older folks who've owned their property for decades, or it was passed down to them by a family member or parent. Um, but yeah, it just felt like home. I was like, the house is not too small, but not too big. If I'm upstairs, I feel like I have a sense of what's happening in other areas of my home. Yeah, it doesn't feel like a lot to manage. And it's on a block where it seems like people don't sell their homes. So it actually made me eager to say that I don't plan on selling this home. So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. Good. Yeah, one of my favorite parts of uh, representing buyers is that moment when they realize uh, the home, or when they walk into the home and they realize, or they think, okay, this is the one for me. And it looks
yeah,
different for everyone. Not everyone is as surprised or as excited, or you can't see it written on everyone's face, but
Mhm.
it's just different for everyone.
Yeah,
And it's interesting to see how each person, kind of responds or handles
yeah,
it.
yeah. Yeah, I remember you saying like, "Oh, you'll know," and I was getting frustrated. I know you said I didn't look at as many homes as other people, but I was getting frustrated because I was like, "Why am I not feeling, that a
Yeah,
home is for me?" So, um,
yeah.
yeah, it is true. When you feel it, and when you know, you know. So,
Okay. So now that you've been in the home for a little while, how does it feel to be a homeowner?
it feels good. It feels good knowing that this is my property and this is in my name. Yeah, no major issues have happened, thank God. um yeah, so I'm praying, I was like, God, just make sure let's just keep it this way for a little bit. Um but again, I appreciate you with your honesty because it made me realize, like, things can happen. So it's important to have funds aside just in case. But yeah, it feels good. It feels good coming into something that is mine and that I am investing in. So
Awesome.
yeah.
And you wasted no time making this house feel like a home to you. I
Oh,
remember checking out a few of your Instagram stories, and I want to say like the following week you had um,
yeah.
done some aesthetic
Yeah.
updates to the home to kind of make it feel like Nicole's home. So
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about what you've done, or I guess your favorite project in the home so far.
Um, I would say my walls, like just decorating it, doing accent walls have been my faves. I've used Pinterest a lot to see how I would
Mhm.
want to decorate. And I think my favorite part, well, I have many favorite parts of the home, but I would say I really love my living room.
Mhm.
Um, and so I have shelves on my walls now where I put my plants on the wall. Pinterest really helped me figure out how I wanted to design my home. And I think
Yeah,
what also excites me about it being my home is that if I want to change up the design in like a few years, I can do that as well. So yeah, I
yeah,
wasted no time. I really
yeah.
wanted to feel like it was my home and that I wasn't living in boxes for too long. So
Right.
yeah.
And what kind of legacy do you hope to build through home ownership? Obviously this is your first home, but what kind of legacy are you looking to build through owning real estate?
So I do see this more as an investment property. I don't feel like this is where it's a starter home for me. I don't see myself settling here for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm looking at this as an investment property and hopefully in like 6, 7 years, um, I could either rent it out or Airbnb it. So there are a few homes on this block that does Airbnb. Um, So, yeah, I am seeing it as that sort of property. And, if my children in the future might need somewhere to stay while they're getting their, um, building themselves up or whatever the case may be, that they would always have this place as well. So,
Yeah. Now, I love that you're thinking as an investor. And one thing that we forgot to mention about the grants that you got, they are forgivable
Mhm,
after if you live in the house and the property for 5 years. So
mhm.
after 5 years, you can, move on to something else, rent it out.
Yeah,
Um, and again, you got over $25,000 in down payment
mhm.
assistance. So
Yeah,
you, that's like the
yeah.
title attorney said at settlement. This is the way you buy a house.
Yeah, yeah, like, that's literally the only stipulation is being the primary resident for 5 years. So I'm like, "I can
Yeah,
do that. I can do
yeah.
that." Yeah.
Nah, it gives you time to build some equity in the house.
Mhm,
Um, and, it gives you a lot of flexibility. After
yeah,
5 years, you hopefully will have, a decent amount of equity. If you decide to sell it, you can sell it. But, um,
mhm,
you know, I encourage my buyers not to sell,
yeah,
keep it as a
yeah,
rental, move on to something else and build your portfolio from there.
mhm,
Again, as you have the example from your dad, buy real estate and wait, hold on to it, and over time, it'll appreciate.
yeah, that's my plan, so
Yeah, awesome. I love it. I love it. So what would you tell people in the Black community watching this who's currently renting and doubts if they'll ever be a homeowner? Um, yeah, what would you tell them?
I know it's challenging or easier said than done, but I would say shift your mindset and your idea of who what a person looks like who the person looks like that owns a home, the typical person. Even though it feels like the number is small, there are lots of homeowners that look like us that are Black. Also shift your mindset in thinking you have to have thousands of dollars saved up to even start the home buying process. And it doesn't mean you're going to go out and buy a home right away, but just the first step could just be educating yourself
Mhm.
on what it means to be a homeowner and different agents, lenders, and mortgage loans, just starting that process of gathering information for yourself. Um,
Mhm.
so, yeah, I would say, it's important that we find ways to build a legacy for our generations that would come after us. And one of those ways would be to become a homeowner. So,
Love that. Love that. And to add to that, yeah, don't be afraid to talk to somebody. Talk to a real estate professional, whether it be a realtor or a lender. The worst they can tell you is you're not ready now, and then give you a plan to get ready.
mhm,
And you may be surprised to find that you are ready. I had a friend um, that kept telling me she wanted to buy a home and that she was tired of renting, and she wouldn't talk to a lender. And then one day she finally took the step to talk to a lender, and they told her, "Hey, you can buy a home." And she eventually did. So, in
mhm,
addition to what you said, just go ahead. If you have the desire, go ahead, take the step, talk to someone, um, and have the conversation. And you never know where you'll end up. If it's a no, they can help you put a plan together to help you get to where you want to be. And if it's a
mhm.
yes, then great, and you're able to move forward. All right. This next question comes from a previous guest who is still renting and working toward buying. And the question is this: what do you miss about renting, if anything? And even with that, was buying your home still worth it?
Buying my home was definitely still worth it. I, I don't think that I don't think I would say there's something that I miss about renting. I don't miss, the increase in rent. Actually, the one thing I would say would probably be having not having to worry about paying for additional things. Like if I needed to call someone for an electricity problem or plumbing
Hmm.
issue, the landlord handles that. Now that's my responsibility.
Yeah.
Um, but it didn't feel like something that was an additional labor. I created my team. So I have numbers of a plumber, an electrician, pest control, someone to mow
Right.
my lawn. Like, I have those numbers now and I know how much it costs. Yeah, but it doesn't feel laborious. I would say that's the only thing that feels different when it comes to renting versus purchasing. But yeah, I
Hmm.
don't think I would change my process for anything. I've rented and lived on my own twice. And so I was just, I felt ready to purchase and live on my own in this way.
Cool. And to your
Yeah.
point, you did ask me a lot of questions like, "Hey, what's your utility bill?
Hmm.
What do you pay to cut your lawn? What do you pay for pest control?"
Hmm.
And you had everything in the spreadsheet, so you were prepared and very detailed. Had a very detailed budget, so you knew
Yeah.
what to expect.
Hmm.
Going into it. So
Yeah. Yeah. But budgeting is very important to me,
yes.
because it is important that I do other things I like traveling. You know, I love to travel. So, it was just
Mhm.
important for me to know how much I would be putting into my home a month.
Yeah,
Yeah, even prior to purchasing.
yeah, and that's something I tell my buyers too. Owning a home is great, but I want you to own a home and enjoy the home and enjoy the rest of your life as well. If you get joy and satisfaction from traveling and you purchase a house and then you eventually become house poor and you're not able to do the things that you like to do, then what's the point of buying the
Yeah,
house?
it's
Like
been
you
fun
got to
that.
know your budget. You got to be able to purchase a home and enjoy the home, but also enjoy the rest of your life as well. So,
Yeah.
all right. So before we wrap up, I call this section the Big Up Yourself section, where I give my guests the floor to share what they have going on. You are an author, and you do amazing research for kids with autism. So tell the listeners a little bit about your book and where they can find it.
Yeah, you can find them on Amazon. Um, it's really about the doctoral journey. There's actually another volume coming out, where I gather about 25 women from across the world to share their experiences. They're Black women, in doctoral
Um,
programs. So that one is coming out, um, soon. I don't have a date, but they're on
okay, I was about to ask
Amazon.
for you. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know the date. um, and then as far as my research, I'm a developmental psychologist by training. And so I do a lot of research on Black kids with neurodevelopmental disabilities. And I have a lab where we do work in that area. So if anyone wanted to know more about the work that I do, they could follow me on Instagram. It's Dr. Nikki, NICKY_PhD.
Okay. Awesome. And the book that you have, do you select the doctors, or if someone wanted to be featured and share their story, would could they reach out to you?
Yeah, so I try to do a volume every 2 years. So the next one would probably, I would I do a call for co-authors. It would likely be sometime next year. And usually the founder of this platform called Black Women PhDs, she shares the, call for authors, and that's how people reach out to me. And then there's like an application, and then there's a team of us. We review it. Um, and that's how we select 25. So
Okay.
they can also follow Black Women PhDs, if they're interested, or even our Instagram, which is our doctoral journey, all one word.
Okay. Our doctoral
Yeah.
journey. Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. So I will provide a link in the description. Please guys support Nicole by purchasing her book. Again, I'll provide a link in the description. All right, Nicole, this was awesome. I I know someone is going to hear your story and be inspired to take action. And I do this podcast, for people who look like you and me to show that it is possible to own a home, even if you don't have a ton of money saved up. So I thank you again so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me and for this platform, really.
Absolutely. And to the listeners, if you've got this far, please like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. If you've been inspired by Nicole's story and you're ready to take the first step toward homeownership, schedule your free 30-minute consultation with me. The link is in the description below. And I'll see you in the next episode.